While India says no to US, Russia believes that India does not need to buy any American missile shield. It is currently in discussion for since the Russian S-400 anti-aircraft missile launching system is better and a deal for it is likely to be signed between the two countries soon. Discussions are on and the deal should be inked before the end of this year, to fit into the production cycle, said Dmiry Shugaev, the Director of Federal Service for the Military Technical Cooperation, or the FSMTC. We don't see any need to buy Americans' NAaaSAM, the National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System, as India is acquiring the S-400, which provides an umbrella comprehensive cover, said Shugaev. India's Defense Minister had last month cleared the NAaaSAM II for a possible purchase. The US system has restricted a working area and has no missiles that are originally designed for it. What it uses is an adjusted version of an air-to-air missile, said Shugaev. Arguing that the Russian air system is better, the official said that the final discussions are on for signing the S-400 and it will hopefully be done during the upcoming bilateral summit between India and Russia in October. We believe it is logical and natural that the contract is signed during the upcoming summit. There is no pressure, but we hope that it will get signed by the end of this year, he said. He said that the contract needs to be signed this year for S-400 procedures, AMAS and TAG, to fit the order into its production plans. Russia is already supplying the air defense system to China and Turkey. The US recently gave India's possible purchase of the S-400 from its sanction on Russia, averting further complications in India-US ties. So what do you think of India saying no to US defense system and as usual saying yes and going with Russian missile system and its defense equipments? Boeing is in talk with Indian Navy to sell its F-18 Hornet fighter jets in a bid to gain a bigger share of defense market in the South Asian countries. The world's biggest arms importer, India. A lot of technical evaluation has to take place. Jenny Cunningham, Boeing's Vice President for Defense, Space and Security, told reporters at the Air Show in Singapore. The company is also seeing opportunities for its KC-49 multi-role tanker in India and the other countries, said Cunningham. Indian Navy last year invited proposal for 57 jets for its aircraft carriers, while the Air Force of India is seeking at least 100 planes. Boeing and Saab Avi have said both orders should be combined, which would make it the world's biggest fighter jet order in the play. Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India, who plans to spend $250 billion in the coming years on the defense equipment from fighter jets to guns and helmets, wants India and the local companies to get a share to enter into by calling on the foreign manufacturers to make the product locally. Boeing, Lockheed Martin corporations and others have said they will produce in India if they win a contract large enough to make investment worthwhile. Boeing expect the US to decide on the TX program in the mid-2018, said Cunningham. Boeing and Lockheed Martin are vying for a $16 billion opportunity to build the US Air Force new training jets, with foreign sales set to provide an additional boost, while rising of F-35 production and aging fleet of trainer aircraft drive plans to build 350 of TX jets in America. So what do you think of India to make world's biggest fighter jet order in history? Do you think these countries of US make defense companies will invest in India to make these defense equipments and jets and other things? One of India's most celebrated successes that have enabled the world is its Mars Orbiter mission, the maiden interplanetary mission of ISRO, which was launched on November 5, 2013 by the PSLV C-25 rocket, was put into Martian orbit on September 21, 2014 in its first attempt. The Mangalyaan, or the MOM, has completed about 1,100 days in orbit. India's $74 million, called the Mangalyaan, was roughly a tenth of National Aeronautics and Space Administration, called NASA's Mars mission MAVEN. This spacecraft was designed to last for only 6 months or the 180 days in the Martian orbit, but had surpassed all the expectations. It has completed 4 years in space. India's Mars mission was launched on November 5, 2013 from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. On December 1, 2013, it escaped Earth's gravitational field to its 10th month along or the long space odyssey. After completing its 300-day journey, the spacecraft successfully entered the Martian orbit on September 2014 21st, making India the first country in the world to have successfully reached Mars in its first attempt. During its entry into the Martian orbit, the Mongolian was carrying 40 kg fuel load. In June this year of 2017, the Mongolian had spent 1,000 days of Earth in Martian orbit. During this period, the spacecraft had completed 388 orbits around the red planet Mars. Here are the few things that Mars mission of India or the ISRO's interplanetary mission succeeded in Mars. The focal objective of MOM or the MOM is to work on the technologies required for designing, planning, managing and operating at an interplanetary mission for the future of ISRO. It was easily the least expensive Mars mission till date, which was also the first attempt successful. It is also secondarily working on obtaining data penetrating to the red planet's surface features, morphology, mineralogy, and the Martian atmosphere. MOM's competence is driven by the presence of these tools: a color imaging camera, a thermal infrared spectrometer to measure the chemical compositions of the surface, and instruments to assess Mars' atmosphere. It also has produced over 715 images till date. MOM is also well equipped to take care of itself for longer periods without any ground interventions. It's a matter of great pride that India's or the ISRO's Mars orbiter mission have exceeded expectations and is helping us pave way for the bigger and more elaborate and the path-breaking mission for India and its scientists of ISRO or the Indian Space Research Organization. So what do you think of ISRO's Mars mission? Mongolian has successfully crossed 1100 days in Martian orbit, which was tend to be only 180 days or 6 months.
NASA's newest Mars spacecraft, MAVEN, is currently on a mission to determine how Mars lost its early atmosphere, and with it, its water.
The questions that MAVEN is trying to answer deal with the history of the Martian climate. From the previous missions, we have a lot of evidence that that climate has changed over time, that early Mars was warmer, wetter than present-day Mars. What we're trying to answer with MAVEN is, where did all that water go? Where did the carbon dioxide from an early thick atmosphere go? And we're doing this by studying the top of the atmosphere. Since we are the first mission really looking at all pieces of the puzzle on the upper atmosphere, almost everything we're seeing and how it relates to everything else is brand new. As an example, one of the things we measured very early in the mission, right after we went into orbit, before we even got into our final science mapping orbit, was the distribution of hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon as a cloud surrounding the planet, the very extended upper atmosphere.
In this ultraviolet image, carbon and oxygen cling tightly to Mars, while hydrogen, the lightest element, extends well above the planet. Understanding the escape of hydrogen is important because hydrogen is the primary ingredient in water. While previous Mars orbiters have peered down at the planet's surface, MAVEN is spending part of its time gazing at the stars, observing the Martian atmosphere through a series of stellar occultations.
The imaging ultraviolet spectrograph, the IUVS instrument, can determine properties of the upper atmosphere all the way down to the lower atmosphere by looking at a star as the star sets behind the planet as seen from the spacecraft, and by looking at the diminution the weakening of the starlight as it sets, we can measure the composition of the upper atmosphere.
The relative motion of the stars allows MAVEN to look at columns of the atmosphere, revealing how its composition changes with altitude. At the same time, MAVEN's orbit passes close to the Martian polar caps, giving it north to south coverage of the planet. Mars itself rotates once a day beneath MAVEN, providing east to west coverage. This combination allows MAVEN to observe the entire atmosphere.
My goal with MAVEN is to put together a data set that the Mars science community can spend the next decade or two working on. We're making very few measurements that have never been made at all before at Mars, but what we're doing is we're making them in parts of the atmosphere where they haven't been measured. We're making comprehensive measurements for a full year rather than, for example, with the Viking lander, a one-time entry, one profile. We're going to get hundreds and hundreds of profiles and be able to see how the upper atmosphere responds to the changing solar conditions and really put together a picture of the upper atmosphere that we haven't been able to put together before.
Post your comments below, and if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and follow us on social networks and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching. This is WC Daily. Think big, think different. Bye.
You